Unity of Fredericksburg for June 26th, Sunday, June 26th. Now, once a month, I'm with you there at Unity of Fredericksburg talking about one of Unity's 12 powers. And we also have a book study going. It just started this past Thursday following this book, Divine Audacity. Trying to get it where you can see it, kind of like that. And we just started this past Thursday, and we're following the order of that book by Reverend Linda and Martello Whitsitt. And following that book, our topic this week is the power of love. And my title today is Loving More and Loving Better. And those are kind of two distinct topics that I'm going to be covering today. The first of which is loving more. And let's start by looking at what Jesus has to say about love and loving more from Mark 12, when Jesus is asked, what is the greatest commandment? Of course, his first response is to love your God, and that means whatever it is that you recognize as your source, to have your focus on that first with all your soul, your mind, your strength. And the second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. So that's from Mark 12. So there is Jesus issuing a commandment to us that we are to love. Not just people who look like us, not just people who agree with us, but to love with no exceptions. And of course, in Unity, we have our 5 principles that we follow. And the 5th principle is a practice of putting our faith into action in our lives. So here in Unity, we are saying we're not just to sit and think about love, not just say nice things about love when it's comfortable, but to be the action of love in the world, to put feet to our faith. So, how can we practice loving more? Even when we feel uncomfortable, even with people who look different than we do, with people who are culturally different than we are, with people who have a different world view about what's important and what's not important, people with whom we have generational differences, just different ways of being. And we feel like many times that we've made a lot of progress as humans, learning to get along and love each other. And yet there are pretty consistent examples that we see in the world through the amount of exposure we have through media that shows us we still have a lot of learning to do. So we can practice loving more by developing tools to stay present. To stay present, stay in our body. One of the things, the resources we have in Unity comes from Unity founder Myrtle Fillmore, who was very clear that we have a threefold nature, and that includes not only our spirit, our mind, but also our body. And of course, one of her greatest legacies is her practice of healing. And one of the things that she had to say, here's a quote from Myrtle, we must see the life of God in our flesh. So we have that example of being present in our physical body, in our human world. And we also have teachers that are showing up in wonderful ways in the 21st century. And one of them that I would like to share with you is a teacher named Resmaa Menakem. Here's his book called My Grandmother's Hands. And I don't know if that's showing up looking backwards to you, but it's My Grandmother's Hands by Resmaa Menakem. Now, the focus of Resmaa's book is about race relations. And that, of course, is a very valuable study. And it's not the focus of what I'm talking about today, except in that general sense of loving more. one of the most wonderful things that Resna has to offer is wisdom about how to remain present in our bodies, even in those situations where we feel uncomfortable with someone else, with someone with a different viewpoint, someone from a different place, someone that just, we're not comfortable with. And he has some wonderful practices, and I'd like to share at least one of those with you. And he also does a great job of explaining how when we aren't practicing being present, that's how things can spin out of control into unfortunate levels of conflict, if you will. So when we're not practicing, when we don't have tools and aren't practicing being present, then what they call our ancient lizard brain, kind of at the stem of our brain, takes over, and it sort of takes us beyond the level of thinking things through or being reasonable, and moves us straight into those instinctual modes of fight, or flight, or freeze, or one that is rarely talked about, but I've heard called fawn or fix. Those people who just, without even thinking, just immediately rush in and start trying to change things and fix things right away. But these are all kind of instinctive ways of reacting that override any kind of rational thought we have, and can escalate things into problematic levels. So if we can be more familiar with and have more practice with being present in our bodies and not just rushing into reaction, then we can bring about better results in our lives and in our world, and we can do a better job of loving more. So here's an exercise. I'd like for you to think of a person or a situation. It can be imaginary or real. Please don't take yourself into a level of being deeply triggered, but just think about something, a person or a situation in which you know that you feel uncomfortable. So this might be, hey, the extended family over at the Thanksgiving table or something, where you know that there will be family members there that have different political beliefs than you do. Just some situation or person in which you feel uncomfortable. So just think about that for a second. And I encourage you to feel it in your body. Because our body is communicating with us all the time. So you might feel it in your gut, you might feel it in your jaw, wherever it is that comes up for you. Just allow yourself to feel it for a moment. Because one of the skills that we have to develop in loving more is to be present and be okay with that discomfort. And not just immediately give in to wanting to run away, or whatever your style is of instinctual reaction. Just be with it. So along with that, just put your hand over your heart, just feeling that discomfort about this scenario that you're holding in mind, and just kind of rub your hand in circles. It's a really simple exercise. It's a way of soothing ourselves. Number one, recognizing our discomfort, and then taking steps to settle ourselves so that we don't immediately rush into instinctive reactions of fight, flight, freeze, or fix. So you don't have to run away. You don't have to pick a fight. You don't have to try to get someone else to believe what you believe. You don't have to just freeze up and play dead. You don't have to try to make everything right. You can just settle yourself. And Resma Menachem has a wonderful laundry list of different ways that you can settle yourself. So I encourage you to take a look at my grandmother's hands if you feel like that will be a useful thing for you. Here's a list of some of the things that he talks about. humming, rocking, just kind of rocking in your seat, focusing on the breath, doing a repetitive movement, or a lot of young people these days have what are called fidgets, and they're little things that you can play with your fingers. So just go to a toy store, and I bet you can find one of those if you don't have one around. Just doing a little repetitive movement, like rolling your ankles in circles in one direction and another, just foaming, chanting. These are all different ways that you can soothe yourself, settle yourself, so that you can be present and you can practice loving more. So practice being on that edge of this power of love, and out here in our human world, and practicing being more present and having more of a capacity to demonstrate love, even with people that we're uncomfortable with. So that's our first topic. And our second topic is about loving better. So now we're talking about on the level of consciousness, on the level of spirit, we can do a better job of loving better when we have a better understanding of the power of love and how it works. Now, we are talking beyond the human emotion of love, and we know that that little word love, we use it from everything from, oh, I love chocolate, to I, love my partner or my pet. But we're talking a greater, wider definition of the power of love. And I have a quote for you, and it's from the book Power Up by Paul Hasselbeck and Cheryl Holton. Now, the quote is actually a Charles Fillmore quote, but I'm drawing it from this book, Power Up. So the quote comes from Charles Fillmore, and keep a true lens is where it comes from. And this is about the power of love. Love in divine mind is the idea of universal unity. In expression, it is the power that joins and binds together the universe and everything in it. Love is a harmonizing, constructive power. When it is made active in consciousness, it conserves substance and reconstructs, rebuilds, and restores us and our world. So there's a good description of the power of love. So we're talking about the energy of the universe that brings things together. We're talking about that magnetizing energy that we all have within ourselves to draw ourselves toward that which we love or that which we desire. And it's an aspect of all that is, an aspect of God mind. And as we talk about in unity, we talk about our first principle, one presence and one power, and our second principle, that because we're just talking about oneness, then that is expressing from the point of each one of us. So this energy of the power of love is expressing at the point of us all the time. Now, to really get to a deeper understanding, it helps for us to remember the law of mind actions. I'm hoping that you're familiar with that, but let me just review real quick. The law of mind action teaches us that thoughts and feelings held in mind tend to produce more thoughts and feelings of the same kind. So when you have one thought about something, your human brain immediately kind of jumps in and wants to be helpful and starts going out and finding evidence of that thought being true in the world. And all of a sudden you have a whole collection of thoughts. And you have a chance to sort of go out and make choices to bring a desire to fruition. So let me use an example. Let me use the example of coffee. How many of you like coffee? I like coffee. I like coffee in the afternoon. I know a lot of people like coffee in the morning. So let's think of that desire. And if you don't like coffee, then just, think of whatever it is you do like, okay? So when I have that thought about coffee, number one, what comes to mind is the feeling that I have when I drink coffee, right? So, think about the feelings that come forward for you. And I desire to have those feelings by drinking the coffee. So once I have that one thought of coffee, then the way the mind works is we start collecting a whole bunch of thoughts about coffee, about how much we like it, about how to get it, and pretty soon I've evolved from that one thought to a collection of thoughts about coffee that is moving me to take action, because coffee is something I can get for myself, right? I can make it myself, I can go and get it somewhere, and all of a sudden I'm out there in my human world manifesting coffee. I have my coffee. So this is a great example of the law of mind action and how it works with love, because I desire the coffee. And that's part of the energy of love and that magnetizing activity of the power of love. Now we've given, this has been a pretty everyday kind of example. But let's also look at it from a different perspective. Because we can also be giving our energy and drawing ourselves towards things that are undesirable and unproductive for ourselves. So let me try to pick a fairly benign example, but one that we can all relate to. Let's think about weather. Let's think about the weather. Now, the weather is not something that we can control, right? But we can certainly help ourselves to be prepared. But what doesn't help ourselves is to be worried or anxious about the weather. Would you agree? But let's look at mind action. So I will make an effort to check the weather and see what's going to be happening. Oh, it looks like there's some bad weather coming. So whether that's a hurricane or a thunderstorm or whatever it is that I don't like, maybe it's hot temperatures. I have this choice. I can lean into thinking about that and start thinking about, again, my human brain is a wonderful servant. And as soon as I have a thought and I give it some energy, particularly emotional energy, then, we're going to go out and we're going to collect some, let's say it's heat. I don't like the heat. And then we're going to collect all kinds of examples. Oh, remember the last time it was too hot and this happened. Remember when this happened. Remember when that happened. And pretty soon, I have worked myself up by using this magnetizing power of collecting thoughts and, directing energy. I've created a genuine state for myself of anxiety, of worry. So it's really important for us to understand how love and mind action work together, because we can use it in good and wonderful ways for connecting ourselves with desirable things in our lives. And we can also use it in ways that are not productive. We can use it in ways that just generate anxiety and worry or anger for ourselves. So it's important for us to remember this. There are certainly lots of important issues that we all have to deal with in our human lives. And there might be some issues that are really coming forward for you right now, this weekend. And I want to recognize and just demonstrate that I see you and I hear you when it comes to that. I understand. And there are ways that we can be with that, and back to our first example of loving more, find ways to settle ourselves so that we don't go into a destructive level of reacting, so we can take care of ourselves on the human level. And we also can take care of ourselves on this level of consciousness, of managing our thoughts and feelings, and realizing that whatever it is you are directing your energy toward, whether it's, let's say you've turned on the television and you're watching the news and the news and the news and the news and just filling your cup with negativity. You're just creating a storm within yourself. And this is in part the action of love, because you're essentially loving on, when you give your energy to a negative thought, you're expanding it, you're feeding it. And we need to realize it's important, it's beneficial in our lives to realize when we're doing this. And the joy of understanding this, and understanding that you draw yourself towards circumstances that will harmonize with these thoughts. That's another aspect of this power of love, is harmonizing. So let's do another example, and a brief one. But let's say you have a long-held belief that I'm not smart enough. And then you have a whole string of examples of, like, remember when I showed up here and I wasn't smart enough? I showed up there and I wasn't smart enough. So again, this is a collection. There's a belief, there are thoughts associated with that. And then what your brain does out there in the world is collect examples for you of how that is true. But the joy about getting this understanding is that you have the capacity to make change.
Yes.
You have the capacity to work with your thoughts and feelings, with your understanding of this power of love, so that you can affect positive change in your life, in your thoughts, in your feelings, in your consciousness, in your relationship, in your finances. So unity practices show us ways to love more in this world, and to love better by understanding how the power of love works. So that's it for my message today. I do want to let you know we are going to continue talking about this power of love in our Thursday evening book study. It's at 7 p.m. on Zoom. And so you can email info@uofba.org. I hope I got that right, to get the Zoom link and join in us, as we will be following along in the book Divine Audacity. And so I just wanted to remind you of that. And now what I'm going to do is move us into a time of meditation. And each one of the chapters in Divine Audacity closes with a wonderful meditation. So I'm going to read from this wonderful meditation written by Reverend Linda Martella-Whitsett as we close out our time together today. So I encourage you to take a couple of deep breaths and settle into your seat. Just quiet the mind. Allow everything that we've been talking about here this morning to just step aside for a moment and create some space for quiet contemplation as we do this meditation for love. I focus my attention on the energy center of love within my body, in and around my heart. To attune to this radiating center of love, I place my hands over my heart while envisioning a soft pink glow emanating from my heart. Divine love is my name and my true nature. I gratefully acknowledge that the well of love can never run dry, for the source of love is eternal. Under the influence of love, I awaken to more love than I have ever known. I call forth the magnetizing power of divine love. My thoughts are magnetic. Whatever dreams I am holding, I send through them the pink light of love. I center myself in realization that the dreams I have planted and I am devoted to must bear fruit by the magnetizing power of love. I call forth from within me the harmonizing power of love. Love harmonizes my thoughts, words, and actions so that I see things rightly and bring about good. I see myself, others, and all conditions through the lens of harmonizing love. I express love by seeing the good in all. I am the harmonizing power of love. I call forth from within me the unifying power of love. I am divine love, unifying my thoughts, words, and actions until I know only oneness. I see myself in others, others in myself, and God in us all. For I am one. I send out from within me the pink light of love, blessing me and all people and all of life. So let's just settle in the stillness for a few moments and allow those words to sink in to our consciousness. As we come back to the present moment, back into your body and the seat that you're in, we will close out with an affirmation, again from the book Divine Audacity. Repeat after me, my friends. I am the power of love.
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 One last time. I am the power of love.
I am the power of love.
Thanks so much for spending the time here today. I'm happy to be with you all again soon in person, and have a wonderful rest of your